Happy Sunday everyone, my name is Yusuf and you are watching another episode of my space weather news. Looking at the solar wind, we see normal conditions. In orange the density shows normal values. The same could be said about the speed in purple, hovering around 350 kilometers a second, which are average speeds for solar wind. And the same can be said about the temperature in green. Before I move on, I want to show an article, and I strongly suggest that you actually read it. It is about sector-bounded crossings and co-rotating interaction regions, which are phenomena caused by solar wind. In this article, they explain how that you can recognize these events, viewing specific metrics, and what they actually mean space weather-wise and their effect. So I strongly suggest that you take actually a look at it, and I will leave a link in the description box of this video. So tomorrow we are entering in the solar wind stream of a coronal hole, this southern coronal hole to be precise, and this will happen tomorrow, the 1st of March. Looking at the Enlil spiral, we can clearly see that we will enter this solar wind stream, and the densest part actually happens on the 3rd March. So this will be ongoing. There are several bands of density. The speed, however, is very low for this solar wind stream. As you can see, the velocity stays almost nearly at 300 or 400 kilometers a second. This blue band, this blue color over here, represents actually the lowest velocity of the wind speed. And as you can see, this will not change until a few days later. And I do believe at some point we will enter a fast-moving solar wind stream as shown over here. This green section is actually fast-moving, and then we will enter this particular zone. But this will happen, this is predicted to happen within 5 days. So we'll have to see how this will develop further. Looking at the solar disk, we see a sunspot which is leaving the northern western limb, and before she does, she gave us a present, almost a C4 flare, as you can see, but now it is gone. Whether it will come back, survive and reappear remains the question, but I don't think so. Looking at the CME tracker, I will first show something, and it is actually yesterday, the data from yesterday, because it's actually quite interesting. So this is from today, this is from yesterday. Yesterday there were briefly 2 CMEs almost happening instantaneously. And this is actually an odd shape for a CME, so can be classified really as a CME. Let's just call it an outburst. It happened yesterday. Unfortunately, the data ends, I believe. Let's see if there's anything. No, it goes trace back to at midnight when the day starts, yesterday. So this is actually kind of odd that the data just is missing after this happens. Because this looks to be a very strange event to see a CME and then an outburst just next to each other. So I looked at other metrics, and to be more precise, the C3 from Soho, and I do think I know the culprit. Happened yesterday around the same timestamp, and basically what I saw is a sundiving comet. Now I can't say for sure if this is the reason why these combined CMEs or outbursts at least happened, but as you can see, around that time there was yesterday clearly a sundiver going on, sundiving comet or object, and in my opinion this also is the one here actually in this simulation on the NASA ISWA simulation of Stereo A, we can actually see those 2 CMEs. So these are clearly CMEs that happened. You see, they happened around the 27th, and they are very close to each other because they almost happened, as we saw, instantaneously. Today, there is actually a new one in development, but there's simply not enough data to talk about. There's only 11 frames. We'll have to wait till tomorrow to cover this. On whether this is Earth-facing or not remains to be seen. But yeah, we could get a glancing blow of this particular CME, and I do believe that this has also been caused by that sundiver comet, or whatever this was. Looking at other metrics, everything is normal. The magnetopause is shows a great distance from geosynchronous orbit, so it is located where it should be. We can see this by values hovering around 12 for the magnetopause. This is usually the average distance. Anything above this is usually means that it is expanding, and anything below this means it is getting compressed. This is a bit the average region for this, for the position at least of the magnetopause. Looking at the bow shock, we see that it is well defined as well, no deformation, so everything looks normal, including in the other simulations, and I thought this to be a good opportunity to see how normal conditions look like, because I always show this when something happens. Looking at the Schumann resonance, we see no spikes whatsoever, normal conditions over there, and same thing applies here, normal conditions. I want just to outline something that in my previous video I always say that this represents actually drop in speed, but somebody left a comment and told me this might actually be the direction of the solar wind rather than a decrease in speed. I thought this was a decrease because they put it in negative, but I think he's right. This might actually just show the direction, showing a different direction in reference to our planet of the solar wind speed. And I want to say something else. This is really strange on the Space Weather Prediction Center that they only show data which is not important, because, for example, the velocity, anything above this 600 kilometers a second, what we actually need to see, is missing. They don't go any higher than this. And this is absolutely pointless to show solar wind that reaches only to 600 kilometers a second. It has no point. Same thing applies to the density. The density can go until a scale of 1000 on, for example, the ACE telemetry. So why just go to 4? I will send an email to ask the Space Prediction Weather as to why they did this choice. Same applies to the pressure. They could go much higher in this scale, but they don't. And I do believe that anything hovering around 1.5 nanopascals doesn't mean much. So if something dangerous were to happen in space, dangerous space weather conditions, you will never see this in this particular simulations. That's really sad. So let's move on to earthquakes. The one that caught my attention is the earthquake in Iceland, because, as I said, I would continue to monitor this. And now we are in perfect normal space weather conditions, and yet the activity is still ongoing, as you can see in the geology blog of Iceland. For example, in this article, they state that over the last 84 hours there have been 95 earthquakes in this region. And also there have been meaningful displacement of the crust, crustal displacement. There is a link to that particular map, but I can't show it on this video because there's a copyright on it. What I can do is leave the link, and I will, in the description box, and I strongly suggest for those interested in the ongoing earthquake activity in Iceland to actually check that link. This brings us to the end of the video, and as usual, if you liked this video, hit the like button, but most of all, don't forget to subscribe, because if you do, you will miss any of my future videos, and that would make me really sad. Let's end this video with the usual stuff, which is a philosophical quote. quote. This time it is the 20th, and it says slander cannot destroy an honest man. When the flood recedes, the rock is there. So if you are a victim of slander, of any harassment at all, be strong, because it will go away. You are what you are, and nobody can change that. This is it, people. End of the video. Thank you for watching it, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Take care of yourselves.